We're live, I think.
We are. We're not broadcasting out.
We're not. No one can hear us. Now they can't. Can you hear me? Blah, 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 blah. Can you hear me out there? No. Blah, blah. Lots of buttons that we're pressing and moving. Lots of knobs.
Why am I not getting anything out?
I was about to say I could hear you, but it's because I have headphones on. No. Oh, technical difficulties to begin. Talk about technical difficulties. Oh, we got it. One person's watching us now. It'll happen. Let's hope we don't get feedback. Hello? Can you hear me? There it is. Whoa, we're working. Now we're live. Beautiful. It's a little buzzy.
I don't hear anything buzzy.
Guys, we're having a rough first part of this, much like our team. Is it buzzy now? Now you can't hear anything. Can you hear us now? Is it buzzy?
Do your best. Do your best.
Shoot. Do my best?
Yeah, we got to work through it. We're live.
We got to work through it. Is it too buzzy? Stay up here.
Hey, he's supposed to be like this.
I'm trying. I'm eating it. Yum. Let's just go. Let's just do it, right?
So I'm Mike Andrea. I'm here with Trey Fillmore. We're City Post Game Live. We're covering the game for NYCFC versus DC United.
We are. The game ended.
So if you're not in Ryan's daughter right now, you can check the show out on Facebook Live. We're on Blue York 1.
And if you're not at Ryan's daughter, you won't know that we're live unless you're watching live. Yeah, show the crowd. There's lots of people here. I love it. Yay, one person is excited. That's great. Well, you know, I don't blame them. That stunk. That was a bag of stupid.
That was probably the ugliest game we've played so far this season.
I would say so. We just lost to a team that we spanked just only 4 weeks ago, if we all recall correctly. Yeah, a little disappointing. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I think the first thing is, so let's talk about a couple of things. If you want to join the show, call us in 646-493-1904.
We have too much stuff close to us.
Look, we have technical...
we have tech help. We're giving you
our stage
time to tune in.
But, so give us a call, 646-493-1904. Look, this game was rough to start with. Let's talk about the lineup, because this was a lineup that Patrick Vieira changed. And when you're talking about a team that had 3 consecutive good performances, and then all of a sudden the head coach changes the lineup, that's got to make you question some things right off the bat.
Look, Mike, this is now week 4 of RJ Allen Gate. Where is he? Where's our guy? This is a problem.
Well, look, I don't know that RJ Allen is going to fix today's game. I think that's one of the biggest questions.
Well, there was problems in all 3 phases of this team: defense, midfield, and offense.
No?
I wonder if you can't hear us online. Oh my God, this is not going well. I'm going to keep talking though. Whoa, that's loud. That's great. So, oh, that's really loud. We're good though. I think we're good. We're maxing out a little. We're peaking. We're clipping, as the audio term is, but we're doing this. Wow, this is really hard to keep talking about soccer. I'm going to try. We got this. No, I do think it was a problem. I think when you go down 2 goals and you have a center back who has not started a game, let alone played full 90s this season, playing on the right side of the field, it becomes a problem. And you can't catch up. You can't make the kind of offensive pushes you need. And outside of that, you have a player who was kind of the sole reason we went down in the first place. That first goal was a miscommunication. It was the players not communicating with each other in the back because they haven't played together. It was a big mistake. And I think a lot of it has to do with Jake's coming. Jake's here, by the way, surprise. So that's one problem. But I'm better without the mic. You're working on it. But I look good? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Because I'll take that. I've also told him Facebook.
What up?
It's going good. Oh, wait, Gavalt, am I right?
So, Trey, what was the point that you were making?
Jake, I'm so happy you're here. I mean, there's too many points to make. There's no excuse for... I don't know, we are now in week 4 of RJ Gate. Why is he not in the 18? Why are we playing 3 in the back, and then when we go down, we don't take out one of those players for an attacking player and switch the formation? We threw 5... Oh, guys, this is just happening.
But it sounds great in the feed.
Yeah, next time, we're trying to find a balance of starting right after the game and being prepared. And we'll find it. This is only, the 5th time? This is good. I like this.
Sounds good out there?
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Beautiful. Great.
All right, so go on. I don't know if there's a lot more to say about RJ Gate than what has already been said. I think what you have to ask yourself is how do you deal with it? And it does sound like you were getting to a point, which is that Briant may have lost his job as soon as he got it.
Yeah, he lost his job as soon as he got it. That was, it wasn't a stand-up performance. You saw there's especially Chanel, but Kynes as well, making stops, but that was a failed experiment and a lot of that is on the manager. I don't know how much you even put that on Briant. Obviously, he made the mental error and gave it that first goal, but outside of that, just that formation didn't make sense. Why would we change what we were doing? I kind of understood. I kind of understood because we're facing a team that plays a 4-3-3 and has 3 capable strikers, but outside of that, there's no reason to change what we were doing, especially if you want to build out the back. You need to relieve the pressure on the defenders, and that wasn't happening with the style of defense they were playing, and with the size of the field. I think you have to keep in mind we had a midfield that couldn't help facilitate the defenders because they were so busy trying to be involved with Villa and Jack and Wallace that when a turnover happened or when change of possession happened, you saw a big gap between our midfield and our defense because of the size of this field, and nothing could get done. Then when they moved back to try to defend, when Luciano Acosta, who has terrorized us in many games previous, and we knew he would this game as well. We did not face him last time. It became a problem because then they couldn't help facilitate with the offense. It was a 3-phase problem, and I don't know. But I know we have an exclusive interview going on right now, do we? We have Jake here. Why don't we use him?
Let's see. Jake, check your mic.
Here I go.
That's beautiful. Let's move the camera. I know I'm beautiful, but might as well. That's good.
So I've got an exclusive interview lined up? Is that what's up?
Do you?
No, you said that.
Oh.
I'm just ready. I'm taking questions from the audience, and I'm wondering, what are some thoughts about the match that we just saw? Chris? Nothing? Debbie? No thoughts? I'll give some thoughts if need be. I thought one thing that we saw in this match, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, was a reaffirmation of why it's still important to have Pirlo on this team. We moved into an enormous pitch, comparatively to Yankee Stadium, and we saw that when the attack gets shut down in the front, one of the only ways that chances are created are by the tremendous level of vision that Pirlo has gotten. Would you guys agree, or did you have any critiques for Pirlo's appearance on the field today?
Look, you saw it in that last minute, in that last 20 minutes that he wasn't on the field, that there was... the ball kept on being played way back in the back of the field when there was only 5 minutes left in the game, and they kept on pulling the ball back. It's because they didn't have an anchor. I'm not close enough to the mic. Now I am. Because they have an anchor. Pirlo serves as an anchor for this offense and this transition, and I know that he can be a frustrating player sometimes because he's 37 with a wine hangover half the time, but at the same time, you saw how blind the defense was without having the midfield there, and it was. Did you see how frustrated we're in the bar right now? We saw how frustrated everyone was that we couldn't make anything happen in those last 4 minutes.
Look, here's the problem with Pirlo, though. There was so much ground to cover defensively. This was not a game where you felt like NYCFC had the control of the game like they had in the past. And if Pirlo's chasing the game That's not what Pirlo does well. If Pirlo has the ball and can distribute and move the ball forward, that's a great thing. But if he doesn't have that ball to move it forward, then it becomes a challenge. And I think that's one of the reasons why I actually like taking Pirlo out. I would have taken him out a little bit earlier just to give NYCFC a different look. The biggest problem with this game was not Pirlo. I mean, and Trey and I were talking about it at halftime. What formation did you see? I know, Jake, you had a hard time getting here early, but what formation was NYCFC playing?
I don't know. It fluctuated. Look, this is a team, I think fluctuated, and there's two words for it that you can do for fluctuation, right? There's flexibility and there's disorganization. And I think that this team, when they got more offensive players on the field later in the game, they had flexibility. On that goal that Villa scored, you saw Ring switch the ball to Camargo playing left, and he flipped it over to Kyrie playing right, or to Tommy playing right. Ball bounced off of Kyrie. These are players that are not in set positions, and they made it work. They found places to work. But that's flexibility. Disorganization is the fact that this team didn't have a consistent shape. They succumbed to DC United's pressure, and it wasn't even a full press. It was just pressure, and it left them with no sense of how deep a midfield player should be playing or how forward they should be. And I think a lot of that had to do with Matarrita, who's been an excellent offensive player in the last few games, being pushed into more of an offensive role, and now we're sacrificing what he helps us with on defense too.
All right, so let's switch to the defense. Let's talk about it from the beginning. Let's talk about Sean Johnson. I'm sorry. Let's talk about Frederick Briant, because I think from a defensive standpoint, I like the fact that he got the chance, but I think that he was the weakest link on the field out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. He hasn't played a full 90. He was the only player on the field that hasn't played a full 90 recently. All the other players, the other 10, had been on the field for every single game, and you saw that. And he was also playing a position he's never played before in his career with us, or I think in his career previously. And so it was just not a good sight. You saw when balls came in to the left wing to Nyarko for DC, that he had miles of space. And that's because Briant's not defending like a right back. He's defending like a center back, and he's shielding the box as opposed to meeting the player at the point of the attack. And that's what you need if you're playing right back.
Do you put that burden on Patrick Vieira for making that choice?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I understand why he wanted to take the risk, because we're against a team that was missing Patrick Mullins, a team that has only scored 2 goals this season, a team we dominated at home, and we're on the road, and it's not going to be an easy point anyway. I understand why he did it, but it's also the reason why we lost.
So as we look at other things because I agree with you. I mean, I think that from that back line, it started confusingly there. What else could we have done? Because again, this midfield didn't. Quite honestly, I can't think that changing Frederick Briant and putting him on in place of Ethan White was enough to cause the entire team to not remember how to play soccer.
Well, that's what it looked like for most of the game. But I think that if you play a true 4 men in the back, like we usually do, and you leave Ethan and Matarrita as overlap players, what am I being told?
No,
I got a "you're gonna die" symbol.
Who's gonna die? I'm telling Jake that he should go find out from the crowd what people think about the game.
Yeah, find someone, bring someone. Where's the hit him in the face guy? He's great.
We want to know from the crowd. Do they put this loss on Patrick Vieira?
I think that if you switch the way that our team is built and we've gotten pieces for, I think it's important to find a good balance with Pirlo and Ring, and with the space that was created with the weird formation, you didn't really get any consistency, no overlap in the wings, no overlap defense to offense. Okay, and now we got hit him in the face guy coming.
So we got a good question that's out there. Do the fans put this blame on Patrick Vieira or on one or multiple of the players? What's your take on it?
No, I'm a team player. That was the whole team. Everybody didn't really do their part, honestly. There wasn't enough ball movement. DC had the ball almost, 65, 70% of the time on their side of the pitch. Had nothing to do with anybody. Everyone played well. When we had chances, we made great crosses, made great passes. We had opportunities. Had nothing to do with anybody. Our team just wasn't there, that's all.
Jake, we need to know team player's name.
What's our team player's name? What's your name, man?
Manny.
Manny?
holding it down.
Where are you from, Annie?
Well, I'm from around here, actually. I grew up in the area, so that's how I come to Ryan's daughter a lot.
NYCFC fan?
Always, from the very beginning, actually. I just became a city member this year. Very happy, very happy, very happy. You know, love seeing Jackie and her mom, always, so that's always a nice
Her
plus,
mom,
but
Jack, her mom.
all day.
He's been telling me to hit him in the face since 2015.
All day. I'm the only one. You know me by that comment. I'm usually the one random dude going, hit him in the face. Hit him in the face.
But so fair? Are we going to say that this was a group blame kind of situation? There was a general loss of what? Morale, of cohesion?
Look, yes, fair to say that the entire team lost the game. However, unfair to say that Vieira is without blame for this, because I think this is a game where when you change the lineup so drastically, it becomes a challenge to wonder how the team is going to react to that.
Look, it's not just that. I mean, if you want to say that it's more of a team loss than not the manager, I think there's something deeper here. And I love soccer's not a fully technical sport. It's not a sport of batting averages and advanced statistics. This is a sport where culture matters. And Patrick Vieira has created a culture that has worked for us very well. Very disciplined team, a very button-up team, a very controlled team, a very professional team. But when you go down 2-0 on the road, you need to make sure you have players that won't lose their cool, players that will keep their head in the game, that are winners and gamers, and to make sure that they're players that won't make the bad, selfish decisions, whiffing on shots and not making the passes quickly enough when the game is on the line. And I think that Patrick Vieira creates a system that works well for us as a team most of the time, but when these things happen, we've seen time and time again, when this team loses their head, like they did in Orlando, and like they did in this game, and like when we blew that game to Montreal, it's these players that are just a little too buttoned up, and we don't have enough gamers, and things like that. I don't know. I'm a man of intangibles. What can I say?
Let's ask an easier question. So we're both here. We're both in New York City. We're Ryan's daughter. We didn't make the trek down to D.C. I'm actually, after that game, I'm happy about that decision. I was a little upset thinking, gee, I missed an opportunity to see NYCFC on the road. I missed an opportunity to see them live. After that performance, I'm happy I don't have a 6-hour drive back to New York.
Well, I'm sure the players aren't happy they have to make the 6-hour drive. Well, I mean, they have to go back to New York and then back to Philadelphia. And, we got another road game after this. It's about, can they pick their head out of this? Is Vieira going to chew the players out that need to be chewed out? And are the players going to step up? Who's going to step up for this team? It's interesting. I don't think the players played extremely terribly, but you saw them lose their legs because they weren't used to playing on such a large field in a while since we played Orlando. They're on the road in front of a hostile crowd, a loud crowd, a full crowd. And you saw by the end of the game, you saw heavy touches. You saw players not finishing their runs. That's why Wallace got taken off. And you saw fatigue mentally, but definitely physically. You saw players just not finishing the game. So I think it was very interesting that it's going to be hard next week against a good Philadelphia team.
And when I said I wasn't talking about the players, I was talking about the fans. I was talking about guys like like Chris P. and Andres who drove down.
Oh yeah.
But Chris Magali is watching on Facebook, and he said the possession was 65.9 to NYCFC. 65.9 to 35%, 34 to DC. So, I mean, from a possession standpoint, it sounds like NYCFC had the ball. They just weren't doing anything with it.
Well, that number doesn't matter. When you go 2 down so late in the game, you're going to keep the ball more often. The teams you saw DC United essentially park the bus so that they could get these points because they're a team that is in desperate need of points early this season. So I'm not surprised we had more possession. I don't think that it's a telling stat. So it's interesting. It's like we're a possessive team, but again, we spent a lot of that possession log jammed in the backfield with no transitional play, and we saw a lot of passes in the final third that didn't meet their mark.
So DC coming into this game had scored 2 goals all season. One of them was a PK. Granted, both the goals they got today were off mistakes or bad play by NYCFC, I mean, are you shocked that NYCFC conceded in such a way?
I'm not, because Luciano Acosta is a player who has dominated us before. He's a player that if you turn the ball over in the midfield, which when we have bad games we do very often, he's a player that takes advantage of it. He's great in possession. He's great carrying the ball for long distances and waiting for plays to develop. He's great with the ball at his feet. He's a facilitator, and we saw him run on and score that second goal. He's a good player. He's a player that's always good against us. So we did not face him in the last match we played DC, and we obviously saw the difference, and we had no answer. We don't have a real number 6, and there was just too many. They spread us out too wide on their own home field.
Alexander Cayens gets a yellow card early for a deliberate handball. I mean, that's a fair call, and that's one of those cards that you're always going to get. It's like taking your shirt off after a goal. And then Ronald Matarrita got the yellow card for the
for dissent.
Yeah, for dissent, for
which
kicking the ball away.
Which shows you that their head wasn't in the game. I mean, they from minute 1, from the first 5 minutes, when this team didn't have its first 5 minutes, weren't in the game in the first 5. I would say 10, 15 minutes. So that's not a foundation to build a game upon, you know.
Well, it was 15 minutes before NYCFC had their first chance on goal.
What? Yeah. More importantly, one shot on goal in the first half, and this is a team that averages about 10, 11 shots on goal and at least 15, 16, 17, 18 shots per game. And we didn't see that in the first half, and that's not a great way to come out in the second half and, try to be consistent.
So, look, and you mentioned it, 15 minutes until NYCFC had their first chance. 30 minutes in, Harrison has that beautiful cross, but it gets picked off. There weren't a lot of chances in the first half. The thing that we talked about at halftime was the formation, because when I watched this game, the formation to me looked like a 3-2-3-2. I saw Briant, Chenot, and Callens playing the three-man back line. You saw Pirlo and Ring playing the midfield, the holding midfield together. Then you had Matarrita, Maxi, and Jack Harrison playing on the as the midfield, and then Wallace and Villa playing up top. I mean, Rodney Wallace, I don't know if it was, I'm going to guess. I'm going to give Rodney Wallace the benefit of the doubt. Rodney Wallace was out of position the whole game, and I can't imagine that that's a mistake. Granted, he was one of the first subs of the game, but still, that just, I can't think that a player of his caliber drifts inside and moves David Villa out to the left by mistake.
But again, it's that question of, like, can a team be, have viscosity and have some level of improvisation, or is the team disorganized? And I think we saw more of column B than column A in this game, and it's just concerning. They didn't have alternate kind of points of attack while the game was going on. There was no active plan Bs at any one time. You saw lots of Matarrita trying to shove the ball into Wallace and Villa early in the game, and then you had Villa trying to do things by himself. It didn't work, and then you saw Jack Harrison loft in 6 straight balls, and just no plan Bs were happening. So it's not a recipe for success.
So let's do this. Let's bring in a special guest for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
let's bring in Nick.
Talking.
No, let's go. You stand. You sit.
Oh, I'm staying?
Very good. I like it all.
Let's bring in Mick.
I need
Malamphy.
another beer.
How are you doing, guys?
So, Mick, your thoughts on the game? I mean, obviously you're not pleased with the result.
No, certainly not pleased with the result at all. I thought they lacked a bit of urgency there, to be honest with you.
You got to get a little closer.
A little bit closer. There we go. I think they lacked a little bit of urgency today, and they seemed to kind of, each time down the wing and balls into the middle of the box just didn't seem to be working, and they didn't seem to have very much else in the way of imagination.
You're a lifelong soccer fan.
I've been watching soccer since about 39 years now.
Oh, Jesus.
Turned 40
Christ.
about 4 months ago.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What? So after, like, a team like this that has had solid performances for over a month, now they have a poor game on the road, and they have to go on the road again. What do you think they're going to do in this next week to help them out?
I think they'll get back to basics, get back to training, see what works for them. To be fair, I think this is probably the poorest match they've actually played this season. I was down in Orlando for the first game of the season, and I thought they were very unlucky in that one. They looked exciting. They looked like they had some nice ideas. I thought Maxi and a couple of the new signings kind of played really well and gelled well with the team. And I mean, in fairness, the 4-0 win, up in New York 3 against DC, they looked great in that. I thought they showed a lot of tenacity and a lot of guts to come back from 1-0 down against San Jose. And I guess today you can just put it down to just maybe, I don't know, is it a bit of tiredness or just maybe, it's kind of one of them games like you're going down the turnpike to DC, and I think DC probably just were the better team on the day today.
I have a very, very important question on a lighter note.
Yeah.
I've been coming here for every away game and even some home games as well. I was one of the only people here during the 7-0 massacre. We won't talk about it. You poured us all tequila shots. I appreciated it. But I do want to point out, you do serve free food every away game to anyone that comes to watch the matches. How is your shepherd's pie so good?
Oh, that's a secret recipe that I have to take to the grave with me. If I told you what I put in it, you'd probably all, if there's any vegan listeners out there, they'd probably be boycotting the place.
It's children.
It's lots and lots of TLC and no gravy. I don't put any gravy in my shepherd's pie.
Good, that's a good choice. It's not dry. I appreciate it.
Plenty of cheese and butter. That's it.
So, looking forward to the rest of the season. You have good. Even after a game like this, we're going to have these games.
Of course.
Do you feel good about Patrick Vieira, about some of our new signings?
I feel great about Vieira. I think he's definitely the man for the job. And the new signings, I think Max, he's gelling well with the team. I mean, personally, I would really like to see Tommy McNamara starting again. I think he certainly seems to bring something wonderful to the team off the bench. And I think he could probably do a bit more for us, if he starts against Philadelphia next week, certainly, and we all know Philadelphia is a place where he's done well in the past at. I think that's a big thing there. I think, even today we saw there was a little spark when McNamara came off the bench. As for the season, I don't see any reason why we can't make it to the playoffs again this year. And maybe even, who knows, even maybe push. I think we'll be pushing Atlanta. And maybe, I hate saying it, but that shower across the Hudson River, I think there are two big ones for the Eastern Conference Championship.
Yeah, we were talking about how scary Atlanta is. They're about to play Toronto.
Yeah.
Now, we do have questions, and I'm completely not even reading them because I'm too busy here, but I should be on the interwebs. So one thing very quickly, what about the non-call? Trish asks, what about oh my God, Chris's whole family is here. What about the non-call when the DC goalie hit the ball out? Yeah, that call should have gone our way. I don't think it changed the game. And then Chris says, Chris Magley, Perp Stew, as we affectionately call him on the internet. Here's a talking point about our attacking philosophy. Seemed to be lofting crosses into the box, but Sean Okoli was left off the 18. He prefers Ugo. Let's be gentlemen. What's that about, given our lack of size up front? Look, I don't think that's a problem. I think Boswell and Birnbaum are small to begin with. They're good center backs, but they're not known to be like the most physical center backs. And secondly, we dominated them in the first game against DC United without lofting balls in the box. I think it was just out of desperation. I think it was we couldn't find the space in the middle. Maxi, sorry. Oh, Jesus. Max, I'm like thinking like 2009 Chelsea. Maxi was being pulled out from an attacking role. He wasn't supporting David Villa because he had to help support Ring and all these other players because we were just discombobulated with the size of the field and with kind of the strength they had in the midfield. I think it really just took the team for a spin. So I think all the crosses in the middle wasn't a plan. I think it was just out of, I don't know.
Desperation.
I think you're just being a little bit too kind because you've mentioned a couple times about the size of the field. I don't think the size of the field had as much to do than it was just a poor game plan by Vieira. I mean, again, until someone proves to me otherwise, I'm going to think that this lineup was wrong. And Chris Magali, you just mentioned it, made a good point. The 18 might have been wrong. This might have just not been the right guys dressed for this game, and there might have been some other choices that could have been made leading into this setting up. Again, this was a DC United team. This was a DC United team that only had 2 goals going into this game. They were ripe for the picking. I don't care that they're going to play a delay style where they're just going to try to take, very similar to San Jose, just make the game ugly. We did a good job on our own of making the game ugly.
Again, I just go back to the whole idea. I think there was just like this lack of imagination, and I think that's something that's we definitely had a lot of that in the first season, and I thought that was something that Vieira's probably done a good job of definitely playing a better style of football recently. But today they just didn't seem like they were up for it. That was it. That's how I felt.
Yeah, the lack of imagination is a good point, because I was talking to someone at halftime, and she said that it felt like everyone was following Vieira's plan, but Villa.
Yeah.
And Villa was trying to still be creative. He was still trying to create a game plan. He was still trying to score goals and just do different things and figure out how to break down DC. You can't always assume that the dominoes are going to fall in place, and sometimes it takes a little bit of brilliance to unlock a team. And where Villa was thinking that at that level, the rest of the team was just following a pattern of saying, no, if I pass the ball, I got to pass it here.
Look, this was a structural thing for the whole team for the whole game. It didn't fall on certain players necessarily, and you can tell because when we made all the offensive subs that we did late in the second half, you saw more sparks of brilliance, you saw the team pushing up more, you saw a sense of urgency, but then that died down. That went away. And that tells you that it's not just the players, it's a team thing. They can only do so much new, and then the defense, plants their feet again, and we run out of ideas. And I think, again, it comes from we don't have one-on-one creative players. We don't have blue-collar players on this team, and that's okay. We win games because we don't, but you'll get this sometimes. And I think the one thing is that you have to make sure that you don't get down in the first place. You need to start strong, and you need to make sure when a goal goes against you that you have to realize what went wrong and change something. And a lot of that was the fact that we were playing three in the back, and we had three straight center backs, and they had no help in distribution, especially when Pirlo went off. That's why, and we didn't correct that problem.
I think one thing to look at now is definitely next week. Let's move on. We lost today. 3 points next week against Philadelphia. We should take Philadelphia next week, really.
We'll see.
Chester hasn't been a bad stopping ground for us in the past. And it's onwards and, just onwards and just look to the future now,
I don't know. Yeah, Mick's got to run.
I got to go pull some points for these hard-working guys here, all right? So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining the show.
Cheers, lads.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us at your lovely establishment.
The legend himself.
Legend.
If you're not familiar with that face, for the Hypno
What is
Kit,
wrong with you?
The Hypno Kit jersey launch, that took place just downstairs. So very nice to have Mick join the show. But wow, he kind of was a little bit bold saying that Philadelphia should not be a problem. After today's game, I think we don't beat Chivas USA.
What he's saying is that we beat ourselves, folks. We beat ourselves. No, it'll be. Philly hasn't had the greatest start, but they're definitely a more physical team than DC. They're a huge team. They have our homeboy, the U.S. men's national team homeboy, tall guy. Come on,
Gucci.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's huge, but again, we're looking ahead. That's.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a post-game show.
Yeah, because I don't want to. I mean, again, maybe that's a good sign is that we move ahead from this DC game.
I mean, how much can we talk about some of the faults that we have?
Well,
I spit on your phone.
Let's talk about it specifically. The first goal that we conceded. I mean, quite honestly, what was I put that on Brillant. I know Chanot was coming in, and there should have been better communication, but he still got the ball. I mean, he's in possession of that ball until Lloyd Sam takes it away, and that's disappointing. I mean, that's one of those things. Yeah, and when I was thinking about that goal, I was thinking about the Orlando game because I was saying, okay, this is only our second road game of the season, and is it just the fact that we're going to struggle on the road and become a typical MLS team where we're going to take care of what we have to at home, but on the road we're not going to get the points that we need. This was a game that these are road points that I think we dropped.
That we definitely could have taken, especially when you saw we were able, when we put our head to it, to not only be physical and dominate, but score a goal as well. So I don't know why that didn't happen for 90 minutes. There's a few reasons. On the goal specifically, so we talk about, some specific things. That, again, is a center back, not to rehash this point, that's a center back playing right back. And he saw Chanot coming in right next to him. I know that Brillant had the ball.
He's in the center back position.
He needs to move. There's two players in the same position in the middle of the field, and the ball is there and the player's running. One of them needs to become the outlet. This is 101 playing from the back. Why were they both standing in the same position? Chanot peeled off, but he stayed in the position he was supposed to be in. Brillant trying to take that ball and take responsibility for it. He needs to commit himself, and Chanot needs to shift over to the wing, or what should have happened is Brillant to play his actual position and to move off the ball when Chanot got there, or either both of them could box out the player, in a fun way, and let the keeper get to it. But none of those things happened, and a lot of it has to do with playing out of position.
What's the unfun way of boxing out a player?
No, I'm just saying you're not allowed to, but it happens all the time. You just kind of be cheeky. It's really not allowed. Impeding a player is a yellow. You can't do it.
When I think about this, one of the things I think it's more of a life conversation is setting people up for success. When Patrick Vieira put Frederic Brillant in that position to start in this game, was he setting up for success? I mean, it's his first start of the season. You know he's been hungry for minutes, and then you put him on the field in a position. You tell me. I have never seen Frederic Brillant play right back before.
No, and he's not even like one of those combo center backs that you would want to try. He's more of a one-on-one stopper. But it makes sense on paper, right? They're playing three in the front, and they didn't have Patrick Mullins on the field. So you would assume, why couldn't you play three solid center backs in the back? It makes sense on paper, but the players need to be able to execute the formation they're asked of, and they didn't. And it didn't help that players like Matarrita didn't have a good game or great games.
Well, let's go back to Facebook because we got a comment, and I wonder if it's a comment made specifically because we have someone in the audience. James Magley said that Jack made a number of excellent passes into the box, but people should have been around and don't follow his lead.
Oh, we got another question.
I mean, look.
I don't know.
I thought it was odd, and Mike Allen made this comment to me on Twitter during the game. Two of our best chances were Maxi Morales heading the ball on the far side. That 5'3" Maxi Morales, I don't tower over Maxi Morales, but he doesn't intimidate me if I see him in a dark alley.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't titillate you, which is what I thought you were going to say. But actually, that's okay if that happens. Because sometimes when he plays, it's very exciting. But I don't know. You can't put that blame on Jack. He was trying something new, and there was no support players next to him.
No, it's not a comment on Jack. It's not criticizing Jack.
It's more players standing around. I don't know. You can't. What are you going to do? There was runs happening into the box, and nothing was coming of them. It's because DC scored 2, and then they just packed the box with players. They were smart. It was good defense. Now, we did get a question on Twitter. I think we briefly talked about it. Why T-Mac on for Wallace but not Pirlo? I'll take that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. Look, I was actually going back through my notes. 22nd minute, Ian Hart steps on Pirlo's hand. And Pirlo looked like he was in some pretty good discomfort. Before that, Pirlo looked like he was struggling with the game, whether it be with the heat. And again, this is the first warm game that they played. I'm sorry. Orlando they played, it was warm. But they came back to NYCFC, played 3 games in cold weather. They've been training in the cold weather for the last couple of weeks. It's not beautiful down there. And again, we're trying to get half the staff that does the show with us is down in D.C. right now. So we're trying to get them to call in and give us an update. But the fact of the matter is, it was 65 degrees at game time. This was a warm environment. And then he's not playing well, and he gets his hand stepped on. And it seemed to just throw him off as far as just mentally you say, wow, this game's not going my way. So I don't know what he said during halftime to keep himself on the field, but I agree. Wallace was out of position, and Wallace had been running around a lot more, but maybe that's part of the problem.
So I'll take the opposite opinion and talk about it. I think that we saw when we took Pirlo out, again, at the very end of the game, these defensive players had no one to outlet the ball to. That's one of the reasons why the goal was scored on us, but also why we didn't make any chances in stoppage time. How can a team that has offensive substitutes against a team that's parking the bus not get the ball out of their own backfield on multiple occasions in stoppage time when you're down a goal? That made no sense. And it's because Pirlo was not playing. I'm all for keeping Pirlo on the field, and Wallace was taken out, and I think it was clear because 2 straight times he made key errors inside the box, and both times he kind of collapsed after they happened. He was mentally out of it. He looked tired. All these players did. So Patrick Vieira was doing the best he could, and his substitutions led to a goal. We saw Camargo and Kyrie Shelton involved in that goal that we scored. So, what do you think of Camargo? He didn't get many touches, but this was the first time he not only played but dressed.
You know what? It's tough because I think you said it. We didn't see a lot of him. He didn't get a lot of touches, and I was trying to watch his play and his runs, but there was so much going on at that time. DC was going to make this an ugly game. We knew that going in, and you saw how once they got the lead, how they were going to put so many guys behind the ball. So it was really tough. This was not the ideal situation for Camargo, much like Brillant. His first minutes for NYCFC in 2017. Was he trying to do too much? Because I think he was. I didn't like what I saw, but then again, at least Brillant got enough time to demonstrate what he could or couldn't do. With Camargo, I don't know that I really saw enough to make a judgment. I'd like to see him more. I think if I was going to make the change, and again, this goes back to the Thomas McNamara substitution. If you're going to give Wallace a rest, Camargo is the guy I think from the beginning. You let him play from the beginning, and you let Miguel Camargo, give a shot at that spot.
Camargo did the one thing we didn't do all game, which was switch the point of attack, and that's what led to the goal. I mean, you saw him cross the ball over the box on purpose to Jack, and that's what led to the goal that we scored. The point of attack was switched. We stretched out their defense. Their goalie was left flat-footed, and Patrick and David Villa scored. I mean. So you got to give him credit for that, for trying something new and having it work. But what we also saw from him was taking a whiff shot when literally a World Cup winner is 5 feet from you. It's just it doesn't make sense. So.
But again, that's the nerves. That's the end of the game. That's trying to do too much. Again, he's probably thinking people are patting him on the back for switching the point of attack. So he's got to try to do something else great.
Here's another question from Trish. Why do you think Tommy Mack didn't get the start?
It goes back to the same question with R.J. Allen. It goes back to where he's...
Oh, it's not the same question. R.J. Allen's on the 18.
But it goes back to the question of what is Tommy going to do that's different, and where is he going to play? You mentioned the issue with Pirlo and why you liked Pirlo being on the field, and where you thought the gap was once Pirlo came off the field. Tommy Mack is not going to play that 6 role and be the distributor from that deep lying position. Tommy McNamara wants to be further up the field. He wants to basically, and you saw it, where was Maxi Morales the last 20 minutes of the game? He was in the back, in between the center backs. Maxi Morales, during one of those plays, was actually the furthest player back on the field in the last 10 minutes of the game because he dropped back long enough to pick the ball up off of Sean Johnson's feet. That's not Tommy McNamara. So that's where that conversation becomes a little bit tricky. Because I think where McNamara would like to replace Rodney Wallace, he's not doing the running. He's not doing that tough physical battling that Wallace does. So that's where it makes it difficult for McNamara to replace him. But he's also not going to replace Pirlo because he's not going to do the distribution. He does the distribution piece, but he doesn't do it from his deep.
I agree 100%.
So I tweeted out, people think that Pirlo should be left on the field. Let's see what people have to say about it.
Of course. Oh, my God. We're having this whole Frank Lampard discussion again. Of course Pirlo should be on the field. He makes passes no one else in the league can make, and he facilitates for the whole team. And he's one of the greatest players to live in the last 25 years, and we pay him $4 million. There's many reasons why we keep Pirlo playing. And, I don't know. That's just me.
One of the comments we did get was from Giovanni Trebetta, and he said that Pirlo is effective when NYCFC is controlling the game, but when you're down a goal and you need to press, and this was a frustration with everybody in the bar today. This game got within the last 15 minutes, and NYCFC looked like they were playing with a 4-0 lead.
I think that has to do with the fact that we haven't had a long enough season and had this happen as much. Being down at the end of a game, we haven't had that. That only happened in Orlando, but we haven't had time to funnel in some of these new players to see who can play that role. Look, Pirlo's necessary, but when we are playing down and we want to make a switch, we still don't know who that switch is going to be. That's why you saw Camargo play. That's why you've seen Ugo in matches, not in matches. We saw John Lewis make a debut. Now he's hurt. There's been a lot of feng shui-esque fixing in the 18. And I think that's just going to take some more time. I don't know. It's hard to come back from 2 down on the road. It's always a difficult thing. And I think the guys did okay. It's going to be a sense of who's going to come out win. I don't know. It seemed like they had the formula. Today we found out they definitely don't.
So we got a tweet from Avida, who's running the Blue York 1 handle, and he's saying that Stephen Goff had a quote from Lloyd Sam on the goal. Lloyd Sam said, "Thank God we've got a bumpy field," and he ended up missing the ball. So Lloyd Sam thinks that maybe the pitch in RFK, and you can see that whole right side of the field, it looked beat up. It looked like a field like they had just played a football game on it, and there were linemen like just standing on the sidelines. These players are professionals. They have to deal with this stuff all the time. But the fact that the field doesn't play true sometimes plays into situations. But the players need to be able to react to that. Look, Briant doesn't give that ball away to Sam if that communication starts soon.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. Also, I'm from D.C. The infrastructure is terrible. It's just that field's bad. At FedEx Field ruined RG3's career, and now we got RFK's terrible. That's why they're having a new stadium built in D.C. So it's just you got to live with it, I guess.
72nd minute. Let's get back to the game because we wrapping up. We got about another 10-15 minutes left, and everyone wants to
10-15 minutes. Time flies.
72nd minute. DC gets the second goal. Sean Johnson makes the first save, but again, we've seen this so many times. Keepers are making the saves, but they just aren't getting enough time. Bill Hamid made a double save in this game. That was phenomenal. He blocked the shot from Jack Harrison. But Sean Johnson just didn't. He got that first save, didn't have enough to make the second save.
No, he had a good game too. I mean, he made 4 saves. He made some clean saves. He did the best he could. The first goal, what was he going to do? I mean, and the second goal, there was no. I mean, we didn't even talk about that second goal, right? Luciano Costa gets the ball in transition, holds the ball for a long time because we have no one there at the point of attack to punish him. He finds the pass. The shot goes in. Sean Johnson makes a great save. And yet again, Brilliant is playing like a center back, and there's no one to cover the trailing player. It's just, I mean, if he doesn't lose his job from this game, look, we all love him as a player. He was a huge part of our team last year, but he needs to get his head, I don't know. Again, it's like, I don't know. Do you blame the player or the manager? Someone should have picked up that trailing run. I don't know who it is. I don't know if the whole, there was no help either. I don't want to put it all on Brilliant for that second goal. You didn't see other players from the attack coming back to help and to cover the trailing run. It was a team mistake. This is a team that has historically been bad in transition defense, and we saw it again, especially on that goal. Luciano Costa killed us last year. If you look at his goals from last year, he scored on us in a very similar way.
No, and I agree. I mean, that's a great point in saying that the trailing, the midfield has to come back and cover. You can't expect 3 guys or 4 guys to cover 6 players as they attack, and these balls are moving, and you have to follow these runs. So let's move on because then what do we have? 6 minutes later, we see the same thing, and it's not exactly it doesn't lead to a goal, but it leads to Sean Franklin, and it's a perfect example of what you just discussed. DC gets the shot. The save is made. It's a poor clearance by NYCFC, and Sean Johnson is standing. I'm sorry, Sean Franklin. I'm looking at it. Sean Franklin from DC is standing alone at the top of the box. I mean, that's where you want to see some of these players being.
We got a call.
We got a call.
Can we hear it?
We can hear it.
Hello.
Chris, we got you. You probably can't hear us, but just give us your stuff.
I don't hear Chris. Oh, no. Oh, I hear something. Nope. Oh, did you hear that?
I thought I heard Chris.
I thought I did. Keep talking, bro.
Are you guys all wasted there?
Oh, I hear you. I'm not wasted enough, I promise you.
You're not wasted at all? What's going on?
Definitely hear
it
you.
sounds like Nick Chavez.
This is Chris P, though, right? Perps do? Hey, other Chris, can you get me a Corona Light? I'd really appreciate it. Love you. I have a tab.
So it's Nick Chavez calling in, right?
Is it Nick? Who is this? Talk to us. Who is this? They stopped talking. Now they're blowing into the mic. Did they really call just to ask if we were wasted? Hello. Can they not hear us? Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Love you.
Yes, hello.
Oh, see, I have to talk into the iPad. What's up?
What's going on, Trey?
Who is? Oh, is this Nick?
This is Andres.
Oh, it's Andres.
It's Andres.
I'm here right by with Chris. What's going on?
El Patron, what's up?
Well, we just came out of RFK. According to Chris, the locker room before the press could get in was very, very ripped by Patrick. And when Chris walked in, he said it was the most saddest, right? Yeah, I'll pass it over. Hold on.
So just to fill you all in, yeah, you're on.
We have NYCFC Nation, 2/3 of them on the phone right now.
Hey, Trey?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the locker room was by far the most demoralized and just upset. I've never seen them. In all the post-game stuff I've done, I've never seen a team this demoralized. The players were clearly upset, clearly angry at themselves. A lot of your dropped heads. Vieira came out of there really late. It seemed like he was digging into the team and then just went straight to the locker, to the press game, post conference. The players are not happy. They all said they made more mistakes than DC created chances. Essentially, they're saying they lost the game. They gave the game to DC instead of DC actually winning. It was terrible.
Any players particularly that you spoke to?
Say that again?
Any players you spoke to in particular?
Yes, I spoke to, I asked Tommy Mack specifically what it is that he thinks he needs to do differently after coming in and scoring goals or getting assists in the last few games to actually earn a spot start. And he kind of just laughed and he took a moment to try and figure out. He said, I don't really know. I've been working hard in training, I think. I've been coming in making a difference, and I'm just going to keep working hard to show Patrick what I can do with every chance I get. I know Johnson said you can't really blame anybody for the goal. Those are mistakes that happen. You know, you can't give the team responsibility. You can't take that on any one player. It was a team breakdown. And David Villa was also reasonably upset. He said that was another game where they gave everything away to DC. It wasn't a game where DC won it. It was a game where they lost.
Great, thanks. Chris, we appreciate it. We have other Chris here telling the bar to shush for no reason. Like, this is an actual bar. They can talk as much as they want.
So did David...
I'll put Andres back on the phone because he's the one that actually spoke with Vieira, and he can give you more in-depth answers.
Andres, you went to the post-game thing?
I will try. What's going on, guys?
Ask him about Vieira.
Yeah, Andres, you saw the... you were at the post-game press conference, right?
Yeah.
So what were some of the questions that were asked of Vieira and like that you remember specifically?
Yeah. One thing I could say, like confirming Chris's how angry Vieira was when he came into the press conference, his eyes were like bloodshot red, as if he was, angry or yelling. But the first question was, what was the difference between DC United's first game at Yankee Stadium compared to now? Added that they had Acosta, and he said, definitely Acosta created many opportunities for them that they didn't have in the first game. And he's also mentioned the field quite a few times and how the condition of the field may have played a factor in a certain play, which we think we all know which play he was mentioning, but that it was a team effort and, it's a team loss. The one question that I asked Patrick was the fact that Ronnie Wallace was playing up front like a central attacking midfielder. And basically, Patrick said he wanted to push Wallace in the midfield and have three attackers up front to pressure DC. Patrick did say it looks like Wallace was not very comfortable with that role, but he did a good job with it. And again, it's not just one player's performance; it's the entire team that has to play all cohesively.
I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired. Anyways, are we done talking to him? I don't know. Do you have any more questions?
No, guys, thanks so much for calling in.
You got a long drive home, so thanks for calling in, guys, and letting us know.
All right.
The scoop.
Take care.
See you guys.
Love you. Great.
So that was great. That was Andres and Chris P calling in from NYCFC Nation. They went down to RFK, and they have the arduous task of driving all the way back.
Look, that's so stupid. I hate blaming the field. That was like...
No,
this is a league where you play on turf, you play on bad fields, you play on good fields. You're going to play in 30-degree weather and snow. You're going to play in 90-degree weather in Dallas and Orlando. Like, teams have to find a way to win. I know you have to adjust your game specifically all those times, but there's no way to adjust to a bad field, especially when you're playing poorly. You called it. You really did call that they were moving Wallace in intentionally, and I guess Moderita was playing as like a wingback, and it didn't work. I don't know. Why try to fix something that's not broken, I guess is my question.
That's going to be the conversation. And look, that's a conversation that Patrick Vieira brought upon himself. He had a team that was playing well, that was solving problems, that was playing against a different opposition. I think the biggest question as to why you have to ask yourself why change something if it's not broke is after the San Jose game. Because San Jose made that game ugly, and NYCFC still got the result. If San Jose had figured out NYCFC and they lost or gave up more points at home, like the Montreal game, then I can understand why, okay, it's 2 games back-to-back where it didn't work. It was close, but it just still wasn't connecting. I understand that. Now what do you do? How many changes do you make? You have a short week playing against Philly on Friday, and how do you adjust to that? Let's just check back on Facebook. Anthony Larson says 2 things. He says, first of all, the team deserved to be ripped apart by Patrick Vieira. So he thinks that was a poor performance. And in conversation, talking about the field, look, NYCFC attacked that same end that they conceded the goal in the first half, and they got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
So you can't use the field as an excuse for what. Again, Brian's play was on Brian. It wasn't on the field.
Hey, Ethan White is from Washington, D.C. area, and I know for a fact his family was there, and I feel bad he didn't get a chance to play.
He didn't play last time.
Did he do anything to lose his spot? I don't know.
No, and I think that was the thing. I think it was a little bit of Patrick overthinking this game.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Well, look what happened our first game against Toronto. Look at that game against Toronto we played last year in the playoffs. He for the first time in the season, played 3 defensive midfielders for no reason. Teams that could not facilitate David Villa, we scored 0 goals and we gave up 2. And look what happens in this game. He overthinks the game. I think that's a great point. And we put and it wasn't just that we only changed 1 player, but it really was a philosophical difference from when we played DC the last time.
So we got about 5 minutes left in the show. Thanks again for everyone for hanging out, and for Ryan's daughter for hosting us. Chris wants Tommy in the 11. But I think as we close out, I think here's a couple of things. You have to wonder, is Patrick Vieira overthinking this league? We talked about it earlier. This team, when Vieira makes so many changes, and we just heard it from Chris, he forces players to play out of position. He forces a guy like Rodney Wallace. What has been the criticism of Jurgen Klinsmann for the last 3 years? The players have to rethink what they're doing. They're not comfortable making decisions, and that's what we were talking about it during halftime. You have a player like David Villa who knows what he's doing. He's one of the few players that's still in the position he's supposed to be in, and he's saying, why is everyone else's decision being so slow? Why aren't they reacting or just being creative and just letting the game come to them? Soccer, in its at its best, is a very simple game.
Well, look, it's something that hasn't bothered us yet, but I'm really scared it's the sleeping giant of this team. I mentioned it to Rox Fontaine after our last City Post.
You love dropping that name, don't you?
It's such a cool name. That this is a Patrick Vieira played on Arsenal with just a collection of some of the greatest players that have ever played, and he has an elitist way of playing soccer and watching and managing the team, and a lot of times it works. But you walk in the locker room, you see how he deals with players that get out of line or don't train to his standard. That he has a very hard line on how he manages his team, and it's going to come back to kill him. It really is, and we saw it in this game. We saw it in Orlando, that this team has been overly conditioned tactically, where they're not good. They're not making as many mistakes, but they're not taking as many chances when they need to. And it'll be interesting to see, I don't know, who we sign in the summer, when we sign them, if players leave, if we trade players, if we have a different bench. He's obviously still figuring out the bench. You have to give him credit for taking chances with the players he's putting in the 18 and the differences that he's trying to make, and he's definitely finding some successes there, and we've seen it. But in the future, he's going to have to make some strong decisions, and he's also got to make some strong non-decisions and let players do what they do best.
So as we wrap up, let's get back to some comments, because we tweeted out, you thought that you liked Pirlo, and I asked the question from people, would they keep Pirlo on the field the whole game. At Brian NYCFC, he said, honestly, no, I want to see more of Yangel Herrera in that position. So again, here's a guy who's on loan from Manchester City, young player, but hasn't had that many opportunities. Colin Hart said no, he thinks Pirlo is fading and fading badly. And then, Mike Allen agrees with you. He thinks that Pirlo is making good passes, and I kind of agree with Mike. Pirlo wasn't the biggest problem on this field. He wasn't the one who was causing the problems. And Jenny kind of commented he wasn't the problem today. And you heard it in the broadcast. Pirlo and Villa were keeping their level high. They were thinking at the higher level, but everybody else seemed to be dropping and trying to figure out what they were supposed to do around them. Maybe because they could adjust their game quicker to what Vieira wanted.
Look, and if you take a player out of the starting 90 like Pirlo, not only for the reasons that we pay him as much as we do, and he's the caliber player that he is, but outside of that, we do have another sleeping giant. When you take a player like a DP like that outside of the game, you have to fully adjust everything you're doing. He's so integral to everything that this team does. And secondly, Yangel Herrera is 19 years old. And the weird thing is that he needs to play, I think, 460-something minutes this year to get his work visa for Man City. And that's like 20 games, like 20 full 90s. Like, he's going to see the field at some point, or we're really going to piss off City Football Group. One of those two things is going to happen.
Well, he's going to get 5 of those games in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, but it's very... So we're going to start seeing it. And again, we saw what happens when you make one tiniest change and don't adjust well as a team to it. Already this game, what's going to happen when we throw in Yangel Herrera, who I like as a player. I've seen a lot of tape of his, but I don't know. He doesn't have a World Cup win.
Well, and tape is all we've really seen of him, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's dressed for every game, though. He's one of the only players on the bench that is dressed every game. So we'll see.
So that does it for us. Thanks again for tuning in.
This
has been City Post Game Live.
Already.
Trey, why don't you tell people where you tweet from or where they can listen to your voice, your beautiful voice on in other places?
I do have a beautiful voice. Thank you. I'm Trey Fillmore at Trey Fillmore. You can follow me at Blue Balls Pod. Jake, Blue Balls Podcast. Jake was here very briefly. That's my co-host at Jake Beck Nation. Co-host, as we say. And Ryan Stoddard's great. Again, I've been coming here for 3 years for the games, and we love Mick. Thank you to Mick for having us and being on the show. Those are my plugs. What about you?
No, I'm Mike Andrew. Thanks again. Thanks for tuning in. We're at City Post Game Live, so if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at CityPGL. You can follow me at Blue City Radio. But thanks again for...
Are we doing this next week?
We don't have a location for next week, but there is an away game Friday, so look for us. And
we'll do it on the street.
And we will find out where we will be broadcasting from Friday night, 7 p.m. NYCFC takes on Philadelphia Union, and we will be following that game.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Take care.
Sounds great. Bye, guys.